Welcome to your next step up the self-publishing mountain.
I'm Matilda Swift, author of quintessentially British cozy mysteries.
And I'm Samantha Cummings, author of young adult books about magic, myths and monsters.
I've written the books,
Changed their covers,
tweaked their blurbs,
tried tools from a dozen ads courses.
and I'm still not seeing success.
Now, we're working together to plot and plan our way from barely making ends meet to pulling in a living wage.
Join us on our journey where we'll be mastering the pen to snag that paycheck.
Hello and welcome to Pen to Paycheck Authors Podcast. I'm Samantha Cummings, here with my co-host Matilda Swift, and we're here to write our way to financial success. We're two indie authors with over a dozen books between us and still a long way to go towards the quit the day job dream. If that sounds familiar, listen along for our Mastery Through Missteps journey. Each week we cover a topic to help along the way, and this week's topic is places to find other authors. But before that, let's do our whins and whinges of the week. And Matilda, would you like to start?
Start with a whinge, unusually, because I've still got a cough.
Oh.
And that's also just sort of an excuse for anyone, and apologies in advance that I'm going to cough in this podcast. I will hopefully be able to mute myself in time, but I feel like it's turned into, from like a big cough, it's turned into one of those sneaky surprise coughs that like comes and gets you mid-sentence. Not ideal. But win-wise, I'm actually feeling fine. So I have been doing lots of writing this week. I have kind of got my opening down. I'm working through chapters. I've got a plan to write enough chapters by my deadline. So that is feeling really good. Other win, I attended a pink party last night, which I feel like sounds euphemistic, but it's really just a party where everyone dressed in pink, and it was lovely. And it was just nice to do something sociable. So then I did feel kind of like social battery chain, like drained this morning, and just had a morning of relaxing before going for a walk and doing some writing. So a good varied week, but I am feeling quite whingy about my cough. How about you? Wins and whinges?
I have no whinges. When the sun's out, I'm just like, I'm whinge free. I am so happy when the sun's out. So I actually took the week off this week, like the week just gone. I didn't do any writing or editing because my book is now with my editor. I do have some chapters to work on, but I just thought, I'm just going to take, this is like the only week that I'm going to get between now and the end of September. So I'm just taking it. So I had just a really nice week of just chilling out, reading. The days still seemed to somehow quickly draw to a close every day, even though I was not spending a couple of hours in the office. It still felt like I didn't have loads of free time. I don't know how, but it was really nice just to not do anything. And in that interim of me just like taking the foot off the gas, I have had loads of KU page reads, like my most ever this week, which has been...
I've had a lot of page reads this week. I think people are in with their books for some reason. It's beautiful weather.
Yeah.
Don't know why.
Yeah, I think everyone's been taking their Kindles outside. So I've had a lot of page reads. Somebody hammered over 700 pages in one day, which is super impressive. And one of the books that I sent out for reviewers, I keep talking about this, but it's like a huge win for me in general.
It's so exciting. It looks amazing.
She posted her review today, and she wasn't like, I don't ask for public reviews or anything, but she posted a public review and it was 5 stars and she raved about it, and it was just the nicest thing I've ever read. And I just think I don't deserve it. I just don't deserve it. I do deserve it, but
you do deserve it. Print it out and put it on your wall. That is why I do nice reviews.
Yeah, it was as if I had written the review, like pretending that I'm somebody else. That's what it was like. It was everything that I would say about my book is what she said.
That is amazing.
She got it. So I'm
frame
I'm
that.
kind of riding that high. Yeah, I'm printing that off. I'm going to frame it. Very, very nice. That's my win of the week. Well, one of them.
That's a big win. That is amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. And it's also that was my 10th review on that book on Amazon, which I've been clawing my way towards for so long. Such a low number, but nice to actually get over that hill.
I feel like people just don't leave reviews anymore because it's so hard on the Kindle.
No.
Like I never leave reviews because I get to end a book and all it prompts you to do is leave a star rating, and you're like, what am I actually going to go to my computer, write a review, type it up? Like I don't really review. I'm not a big reviewer, so I get it.
No, I do get it. Yeah.
The book that I had the book club on, which has still had like lots of organic like purchase and set and read through, has gained some reviews, but like most,
Mhm.
in fact, maybe one review, a lot of star ratings, but really people are not reviewing anymore.
Mm.
Which is a pain, but I get it. Um,
Yeah.
oh, there's a cough. But yes, it is making me think about ARC readers and getting more ARCs on books. I think that is the best way to get reviews.
Yes.
Was to kind of be really intentional about it, and at the beginning is the best way to do it. There was a good Spa Girls episode recently. I don't know if it was new or I just happened to listen to it newly, but I'll put a link in the show notes. So it's quite a good Spa Girls episode that really covered a lot of stuff to do with ARC reviewers, how to get them, how to use them, how to keep track of them. And it was kind of just a nice chat. It wasn't like they, when they saying like this is the best way to do it, you have to do it this way. They were just kind of having a nice chat about how they do it and what's worked and what's not worked. So well worth a listen to. I will
Mhm.
make a note and put that in the show notes.
Yeah.
Because I found it helpful.
Yeah, I don't know if
And
I've listened to that, so that'd be good to remind me to
yeah, I
listen
love
to
Spa
it. I'm
Girls.
so
It's nice to
behind on
have a
my
little chat.
podcast. Yeah.
Oh, I am never. I'm always listening to your
I know.
podcast.
You're so good on the podcast. I'm sometimes will have like a flurry of listening to loads of them and then I
Mhm.
drop it for a few weeks. I'm like, oh, I just keep adding them to my queue. Like, I'll get to you. But
Yeah.
I've got so many in my queue.
Okay, so this week we're not talking about podcasts or reviews. So
Mhm.
we're talking about how to find other authors. So I mean, podcast is kind of tangentially related in that it's a way I learn a lot of information, but learning from podcasts and articles and books, I think it's not as good as learning from each other and other people. So
Mhm.
we're in a business that can be quite lonely. So it really pays to know people in the same boat. And how do you go about finding them? Or I guess even start with, do you know a lot of other self-published authors?
I definitely am not as in depth on this topic as you are. Like, I know that you are so much better at this than me, and it's more just because I'm quite socially lazy. I have got a good selection of self-published author friends, and I found some of them online, some of them in Facebook groups, some of them on Instagram. I used to do NaNoWriMo all the time, so I did gather a lot of friends through the NaNoWriMo grapevine, which is like a lot of my friends online, my writing friends are from that. And I do have some real life writer friends, some that are like acquaintances that I've got it on my list of things to do this year, like by the end of this year, is to take these people out for coffees and try and garner some actual personal relationships with them. But I used to go to a Starbucks pretty much every day, and the manager of that Starbucks was a writer, and he also had written books in the past that weren't self-published. And that was probably the first human being that I spoke to about writing. And that kind of triggered me to like to search for more people online. So I've kind of gone to all the places, but not very deeply into them. So I have a few writer friends, but I know I could be doing more. And I think that's probably what you're going to talk about, because I know you are very into the social scene with writers.
It's interesting because um I feel like I'm not necessarily out there trying to do it. I think it happens quite organically. So it's something that
Mhm.
I obviously only do because I find it useful. I would say part of it that is helpful with my genre is like my genre is quite a big genre, so it's relatively easy to find authors in my genre. Even I write in a genre, so I write crazy mysteries that are much bigger in the US and the UK. But I would say within an hour of me, there are two people who are routinely top 100 cozy authors, like that I know of, that I know happen to live near me.
Mhm.
And I know there are easily half a dozen authors that I know to some extent, cozy authors, again, within like an hour of me. So, I mean, to Americans, that seems very close. It's very far in the UK. I would not go and see someone routinely who lives an hour away, but I
Oh.
could, and that feels useful. And we could arrange to do things together. I feel like I'm always trying to think like what's the equivalent in the US. So like 1 hour away here maybe feels like a day away in the US. Like, I've got friends who are like, oh, I just drove for a day to go and see them, which is like, no, never. People who just don't travel that much.
No.
I think otherwise we'd
And if
realize
you
how
did, it's like
very, very tiny the country is.
it takes the whole day though, waiting. If you're doing public transport or even just driving, if you're driving somewhere that's an hour away, you're probably going to be driving for 2 hours. And then you've got to do all this stuff, and then it's probably going to be 2 hours back, even though it's only an hour away. Yeah, it's not. I feel like
it's psychological.
Even though we're
it
all
feels
close
far.
together, yeah, it is psychological. feels really far.
But anyway, so I definitely benefit from that. So I benefit from it's not actually that hard to access a lot of cozy authors if I wanted to. And I'm not sure I would have necessarily thought to, out of nowhere, like I should go and find the authors in my genre. But again, it's happened very organically. So I think I do have quite a lot of people in my sphere who are A, authors, and B, cozy authors. And I was realizing when you're talking, I was like, actually, I've kind of always had lots of authors in my life, lots of writers in my life. I went to a sixth form college, which is like you can do a separate school for the last 2 years of school. And in the college, there was lots of extracurricular stuff. And one of them was a writing group. And everybody else in it was an English student. And I was the only person that's coming from the sciences. So I didn't know anybody in it. So it already made me feel like my first like writers that I met, I went in with quite a lot of confidence in that, like, I don't know what I'm here. I'm just going to do it. And I'm just going to throw myself in. And I've kind of always had that attitude after that. So I've been to a lot of writing groups in all sorts of different situations. And I did a master's in creative writing that again helped me with critiquing. So I think there's no situation where I feel shy about joining writers, which I know a lot of people do. So they feel a bit like uncertain about sharing their writing or uncertain about talking to writers. But I think the more writers you meet in real life, the more that you feel confident about it. So that really helps. And I think even if only maybe of the people that I've met, 1 in 20, 1 in 30 has been like a good long-term contact, that's fine because I've met so many and it doesn't feel like hard work to meet them. So yeah, I think having done it for a long time and having it happen pretty organically without having to try that much definitely helps. And I think when I used to live in Hong Kong, and there people are very passionate about their hobbies, and a lot of people there are have a relatively high disposable income and free time, and they don't have kids, so it makes people spend a lot of time in their hobbies, including writing groups. And I had quite a lot of friends there who are in writing groups. One group that I still speak to once a week via Zoom, and we have done since the very start of the pandemic. So we've had, 4 years basically of weekly conversations that are like writing adjacent, but also kind of make you, I don't even know, just keep alive with other writers. And it might not actually do anything for my writing or for my self-publishing, but stuff comes up in those groups, and various, sometimes it's motivation, sometimes it's we do like an annual retreat, like a virtual retreat now. That again is like a nice, inspiring, different thing. But someone in there is like the reason why I self-publish, because we used to be in a face-to-face group, and she recognized that I was writing something that was like a genre I'd never heard of before, which was cozy mysteries, because it's just not big in the UK, and she's American, and she was a self-published author and still is, and was able to tell me like, here's the basics of how you do it, which gave me a big shortcut. So, and that was very organic. Like I met her through someone, the friend that I was staying when they first moved out there. She was a journalist, and she was friends with another journalist who was a writer, who said, come along to my writing group. And at his writing group was this woman. So again, I think you get a lot of benefits from meeting other writers in quite organic ways. You never know where it's going to go. So I hadn't initially added face-to-face meetings onto my list because I think so much of the nowadays communication is being online, but face-to-face is a great way to do it. In fact, I just reached out recently. I found out a big cozy author, which I should have known, but a big cozy author is relatively local to me. He writes a series that is set locally, but that wasn't necessarily, indicative of actually being local. And I read an article by him talking about a writing group that he runs that is nearby-ish. It would be a big transport day for me, so I might not go every week, but I was like, oh, I'd love to go and meet some more writers and definitely meet this guy. And so I emailed him. Yesterday, he emailed straight back saying it's full at the moment, but I'll let you know there's space for the group. So I'll meet some more writers that way. And that felt really easy and fun to do. And that is just the confidence you get from having done it a lot. And I,
Yes, I
if
do
I was
think
in that group, I would be in the group with other local cozy writers. Fantastic.
you have benefited from being a very outgoing person. But that does get easier. Like you say, once you start doing it and you start meeting people, the fear goes away and it gets easier and easier. Because I don't think I'd feel too scared to do that now, but I think even like a few years ago, maybe even like before we started doing this podcast and we started talking about writing openly, I was still very inwardly writing. I wasn't hugely putting myself out there. I definitely wouldn't have felt comfortable going to a writing group. But now I feel like I would be, because I talk about it so much. So I think that maybe one of the big things to get into that is just start talking about it, even with people who aren't writing or writers. Because once you start talking about it, you feel less embarrassed about talking about it in general, and then you can like eventually move towards the people who will talk back.
That is definitely a thing that I would say is like I didn't used to talk to people in my real life, like non-writers about it. So that felt
Yeah.
kind of an area of embarrassment for me of just like, I don't want to admit to my family I spend all weekend writing because nothing comes of it yet. But then, I did, and I moved to a new town a couple of years ago, and my aunt actually has quite a few connections here. It's quite a creative town. It's relatively nearish where she lives. So she was like, oh, have a chat to this person because they're a writer. They'll be able to tell you who are the writers in town. And that's how I, joined a couple of groups. I've met different people, and just felt like there was a writing community here I could tap into. So yeah, I think just talk as much as you can about writing, and you just never know who you're going to meet and how and what it's going to do for you. I think you can sit in your room alone forever, and
100%.
it's like trying to find your soulmate by staying inside your house. Like you need to find your writing soulmates by leaving the house, or at the very least joining like a Zoom group.
Yes. Yeah. So talking of Zoom and the internet, where are your go-to places for finding people online? Because obviously Facebook groups are I think for me the number one place is Facebook groups, but that's just because I have been recommended groups by other people. So I've got a writer friend who we linked up together years and years ago by being critique partners. And she was really helpful and told me, you need to be in these Facebook groups because you'll find loads of resources that are really helpful, like groups that are set up to help you find book cover designers or pre-mades, but also just groups where it's just writers talking about things or talking about the struggles that they have on Amazon or whatever. And I find those, even though I don't contribute much to them, I do find those very helpful to be in because it's nice to see just what's going on. It's kind of like working in an office and eavesdropping on conversations of your colleagues. Like, so that's what you're doing over there. Okay.
Yeah,
so
that is the
it
best
feels like
analogy,
you're
actually.
in a virtual office.
Yeah, because you're not really friends with anybody in those groups. Like the more useful they are, the bigger they are. So like the most well-known one is 20 books to 50K, in which you can see the same people posting, a few times, but there's not really any sense in which you are connecting to any individual person, and you're not making any ongoing relationship with them. And that's not the intention. The useful thing is like you can click on someone's name and see what their previous posts were. Some people post like routine updates, and that's nice to see how they've developed. But it is like overhearing people. So I would say I think people often talk about the first place to go being Facebook groups, but they're not for making personal connections for the most part. They are for just like it's a bit like water cooler chat, but it's a bit like you're overhearing the water cooler chat, and you are so painfully shy that you can't speak out loud. So all you have to do is earwig on the water cooler chat, which is great and it's very useful. And that's how you get to know like who's the office bully or like what's happening with management without having to attend all the meetings. It's great. It's very useful. So yeah, 20 books 50K is a great one. There are also offshoots for various genres from that. I like the SPS Facebook group I think is very useful. And kind of once you've been in some for a while, you can get invited to other sort of private groups. So you and I are both in a private group that is sort of invite only for authors of a certain professionalism, not even a certain like financial level, but like people who are, you have to be recommended into it as someone who's kind of taking it seriously. There's no financial restriction. But there are some that are financially restricted, so you have to be like known to be making a certain amount of money to be at this level, which again we talked about before is really useful to have people at your level. But you have to have enough background knowledge that you're not going to be asking just absolutely pointless, useless questions in these groups. So you have to do all the overhearing first before you ask the question of like, do you think Amazon is secretly like manipulating ranks? And it's like, I can't see this question for the 10 millionth time in my life. It's a pointless conversation. It doesn't matter either way. Like there's no benefit to this discussion. And you don't want to see that conversation in professional groups. But you have to be aware of like what are the annoying topics so that you don't ask that on like day one, get kicked out of a good group. So join them. When you join them, like see someone who comments a lot and like click in them and see where else might they be, what else could you join, what other groups people mention. There are useful ones, like there's ones for covers, like I'm in cover groups for my genres, which again I never ever contribute and I never bought a cover from them, but they're kind of it's useful just to be overhearing enough for what's called a chat. And that's pretty much all I use Facebook for. Like I don't have any people have moved on from there as a social network amongst my friendship groups. So I'll have like a few friends updating. But generally I'm just looking at self-publishing things on them, and then the algorithm is trained that way for me. So it's like it makes me feel like I'm using social media productively when I'm really just scrolling.
Yes, me too. Especially, Facebook is. I hate spending time on Facebook, but what can you do? I think that I get the most use out of Instagram when it comes to talking to other indie authors. Yeah, it's I'm good at Instagram. I'm not great at like building followers because I've hardly made like 20 followers over the last probably a year. But I am really good at interacting with people. And I have built up a lot of friendships and and relationships with indie authors and some trad authors just through like messaging on Instagram. I really, really love it, and I love seeing what everyone's up to and boosting each other's posts. So I find Instagram is very helpful. But then my genre is very Instagram heavy, and it's TikTok heavy as well, but mostly Instagram heavy, young adult books. And it's
Have you ever taken these conversations off Instagram?
Some of them, yes. So this kind of leads on to something else that I've done to find authors to talk to, but this seems very self-indulgent. So last year I was obviously doing NaNoWriMo because I do it every year and I love it, and I really like to try and help other people get into NaNoWriMo because I think it's a great way to get into writing. So I'm like an unofficial sponsor for NaNoWriMo because I'm just constantly like showing people how to do it and giving them plans on how you can write a book, even though I'm not affiliated with them anyway, but I just really like doing it. And last year I set up a private group on Instagram. So I have a private account, and people who follow me who are like writers and stuff signed up to join the private account, and we created I then created a what's that? Discord. That's the one. I created a Discord where every week we went through different stages of planning and different stages of writing.
My goodness, very exciting.
We did live write-ins through Discord, and I spoke to people. Like I was hosting these things, these like writing sprints, and I spoke to people that I'd never spoken to before, but I have known through Instagram, and it was really nice, and it was really like one of the most satisfying things that I've done on social media. Like, just feel like
were you tempted to carry it on post Nano?
Yes, I was, but I didn't really have the time to do it. And I wanted to do it this year as well, but I'm not sure whether I will have time. But I might do it like next year as a non-nano thing, and just run a writing group, because it was really nice. And it's a little bit scary when you don't know people or like people's voices. So it was, or when you go on Discord, you can do chat, like a voice chat thing, channel, and it was like being on a phone call with strangers, which to me is like my nightmare. But it was really like scary and fun, because they obviously were also a little bit nervous. But we all got on really well. We chatted. We were writing and stuff, and we were chatted for hours, like we had known each other forever. And it was just a really fun experience. So yeah, so and we all put ourselves out there for that, which was yeah, it was just a very fun experience. So I would recommend everybody to kind of join little groups on Instagram or whatever, and see if you can make little friendship groups. Because yeah, it's
I think
fun.
that is like a positive thing as well. Like you can make little groups and you can always leave. Like I've definitely had things that just end up not going anywhere, or they change significantly while we were in it, but there's no downside. Like the world is very big. People are not thinking about it as much as you think they are. People will forget you. And you can just wander in and out. And also people are just generally not that fussed if you leave something. Everyone's aware life is busy. So yeah, from like various Facebook groups, I have formed extra little offshoots. Within one of the groups, that's how I think I maybe first heard about the Cozy Mystery Clubhouse that I've mentioned many times. And that is just like a conference call with people that you don't know, but you start to hear the same voices again and again, and it's really useful. And we've definitely become closer from that. And the people from that I now chat to more outside of Facebook or outside of the Clubhouse group. Yeah, and I think it's annoyingly one of those things where it's slow to start making connections with other authors, and it just snowballs. So start anywhere, but start now. And things that I've had happen from meeting other authors are like being invited to join anthologies, having closer connections to other authors, like sharing work with them, being able to ask incredibly in-depth, like very almost like personal questions about marketing plans, publishing plans, things that you just think, I wish I knew how they did that. And you can just ask someone to their face or to their avatar. People are really open. I think that's the best thing about the writing community is everyone in it is like relatively introverted and also very nice. So for the most part, they're not going to expect you to be, desperate to have long face-to-face conversations, and they're not going to judge you for being like, oh, can we just have a really quiet conversation for 5 minutes and then both go away for a while? And they're also probably going to answer the questions that you ask. So yeah, the more place you can put yourself, the better. I think I've got two more things. They're sort of connected. But one more thing is conferences, which is connected for me. So I'm a big, big podcast listener, and I feel like I'm an early adopter of nothing except for podcasts in my entire life. I am not an early adopter. I was maybe the last person on earth to get a smartphone, but I was listening to podcasts before I had a smartphone. I would like carry a tablet around with me and listen to podcasts on it. And from that, you kind of find different names that pop up, and you join different Facebook groups. And I'm so sorry. One of the ones that I joined was the SPS Live, which has changed its name from, SPF, SPS Self Publishing Show Live. Lots of name iterations, but the Facebook group is pretty useful in itself. But the conference, I would say, is the most useful. So they've run an annual conference, or they have in the past few years, at which you meet like 700 other self-published authors, all at different stages. And if you're lucky like me, you have quite a big genre, you can meet a big crowd of people from your genre. And I'm going on a retreat next month with some of them who I've met several years in a row at this, and we, maybe spend 2 to 3 hours together, realistically, like face to face, having a meal together. But all the in between things we get to share, we're still in Facebook Messenger groups together, and we listen to each other's podcasts, for example, or go to each other's Clubhouse talks, or we're often in the same room together. So there's other clubhouse groups that I go to where I know people in there, and I'll listen to what they say and I listen to what I say. So you just keep forming connections, and you get to do things like this retreat, and from that you get invited to things like being part of an anthology, and you get to speak to authors that you would never get to speak to otherwise. So one of the biggest authors in my genre is Tonya Kappas, who she ran a group that I was invited to, that was kind of running a promotion for a year, and through it we had a one-on-one like interview podcast kind of thing, and I got to chat to her, and we had some chat off screen, and it's just like a connection that maybe will lead somewhere, maybe won't. Like I'm not expecting anything from it, but these little like touches all around the world of your genre and of self-publishing, they take you to new and interesting places. And then also when you chat to someone else and they say, oh, I saw you were in that thing with Tonya, how'd that go? And you can talk about that. And then you can ask them, oh, I saw you in a different thing where you went to a conference, how was that? And you get to, exponentially increase your knowledge just by having enough to share.
Yes.
Conferences in the UK are not a huge deal. So, like we mentioned, the UK is actually very small. We act like it's very big and everywhere's far apart, but it's actually very small. So when you have one big self-publishing conference, there are others that sort of travel around locally-ish. So there has been a 20 books Edinburgh. There's been 20 books Seville, I think, a couple of times now. And then otherwise it's the US. So people go over to the US for, Nink and InkosCon and CozyCon and 20 books. But like CozyCon is relatively small. In the clubhouse group that I'm in, maybe 15% of attendees were in our clubhouse group. But our clubhouse group is fairly small. So that's the people who are in things are in things, and you get to connect to them, and they're everywhere. And if you're even a little bit everywhere, you get to, again, exponentially increase your knowledge by hearing what everyone's saying. And the people that attended CozyCon, all of them, they talked in our clubhouse group really openly and summarised what are things everyone talked about, what are the things that they, people think are changing cozies in future. So just unbelievably helpful, and just putting yourself out there more is so important. The last one I was going to mention was courses, which I have done various courses. I have met people on courses, not necessarily self-publishing people, but writers and just people that you learn something from, even if you hear like, oh, I did a course over there and it was not very helpful, or I've read these 3 books and they were really good. Just any sort of touch of networking information, always useful. But Jen, who we had on last week on the podcast, she talked about she met her co-writer on a course, which what more can you ask for? So yeah, I think a lot of authors, again, love learning. I love learning, so love taking a course or two, and you can meet people on them. You can meet people that have been on them in Facebook groups. You can chat, you can bond over them. Yeah, anywhere to make a connection is just so valuable.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I've love to do loads of courses and stuff and meet people. I love learning. It's one of my favorite things. If I can do a course, give me the course. I love it. I am going to put out some like future wants. So I definitely am somebody who is like quite. I am an introvert. I'm like an ambivert. But I'm very happy to just like sit on my own, and a lot of time can pass before I realise I've not spoken to another human being. So I really want to put myself out there more. So I'm going to put this into the universe now and say that I would really want to go on a retreat, because I think that that's one of those places, it's one of those things that I think, is it not just every author's dream, every writer's dream, to go on a retreat and just work and drink wine maybe and like meet new people? So that's a huge thing on my bucket list, is to go on a writing retreat. But I also want to host a writing retreat, and I don't know the logistics of that. But I feel like that is in my future. And I definitely need to get more into...
I host at least one a year, so I can even do a podcast about it. I love hosting a writing retreat. I love going to a writing retreat. Yes, they are so... for me, like, they're everything you think they're going to be. Like, you think, oh gosh, what I really want to do is just like write all day and be inspired and feel like I'm in the words, and I
Yeah.
my life has changed, and it really is. It's so good,
So
and it also,
a
I
while
think
ago,
the best. Mhm.
go, you go.
I think the best
You
thing
carry
about
on.
them is that um, you get a chance to see like your best writing self, which is like
Hmm.
you when you have said like I am only focusing on writing. I'm not gonna be like making myself a shopping list to go and do some food shopping. I'm not seeing anybody else who's not on this retreat. I'm not doing the vacuuming.
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything else. And how much can you get done?
Hmm.
And it is a huge amount, and it'll feel really creative. And
Yeah.
it is just like a real gift to yourself.
Hmm. I think it was last year. I kind of put the idea out there that I was going to host one, and put on Instagram like if I was to host like a creative retreat rather than, I didn't want to just say
Hmm.
writing because I do have some friends who just want to do like painting or something. Um, so I did like put some feelers out and said if I were to try and figure this out, would anybody be interested? And I had at least 3 people immediately come back to me from America saying that they would fly over for that, which I think is just
It's
like,
very
I was
exciting.
just like, well, okay. I didn't get around to it this year, but it really like that's always been in the back of my mind. Like I know people who would come over to that. I know where we'd go. I've already bookmarked the place on Airbnb. So I've already got all these things in mind. I just really want to do this. So I think maybe next year that might be something. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Heard it
I
here
have
first.
also, yeah. I came up a couple of years ago. So, I talked about this annual retreat at Chinese New Year with my friends from Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And we used to do a face-to-face retreat, and then the world sort of imploded, and all of us ended up
Mm.
moving everywhere. But in that, like maybe this year or last year, I was saying like what I really want to do like long term is run creativity retreats, because I
Yes.
always run our retreat essentially, and like because I'm the bossiest one, so I kind of
Yeah.
just keep the wheels turning. And then I've also
Yeah.
hosted a couple at my house directly when somebody else come over, and I've hosted some other people for writing retreats. And and I think though there's there's two different things. You can have a writing retreat where you're just doing lots of writing, or you can have a creativity retreat, or like creativity
Hmm.
sessions where you're really just more than kind of closing your focus on writing, you're opening your focus and like looking at lots of different things and getting very inspired.
Yes.
Um and yeah, and I think I can't remember what exercise we were doing in the Chinese New Year retreat, but something in there made me kind of have that epiphany. I was like, that is what I should be doing,
Mm.
because that is what I do with lots of friends anyway.
Once
I feel like
again,
we need to be,
we
yeah,
we have aligned. I don't know how
I
this
know. I
keeps
think we need to
happening.
be
This,
thinking about this.
yeah, this is the thing. This is where this
But
is going next. Yeah, that's exciting.
yeah, because yeah, I live in an incredibly creative, like small town, and like
Hmm.
on purpose have moved here because it's a very creative place, and lots of people run different, courses and things that are writing and creativity related. So I thought it is on my list to try and do something like that, because I do think I have got experience with it. I've worked in education for a long time. I find it very, um, not necessarily easy, but it's definitely within my skill set. And I work hard for it to make things, you know, organized and productive and useful,
Hmm.
and build creativity. So yeah, I think there's something in our future. We're more than just a
I think
podcast.
so. Oh, that's exciting. That's. I can feel something happening.
Hmm. Hmm.
Might just be digestion.
Epiphany. But also there is, we forgot one other thing of like, how did you and I meet? And that is just essentially through social media, but also a mutual
Yeah.
friend, but also we live near each
Yeah.
other. I think a lot of
Hmm.
things came together. Oh, to have me cough all over you. Um, yeah, a lot of things can come together, and you can kind of keep connecting with people again and again, and
Yeah.
just lean into those relationships. Like, worst that happens is like
Hmm.
maybe one of us had been really annoying, and you can just lean back out again. And
Yeah.
we were not tied into each other's lives so much that we couldn't have been like, oh, the podcast is too much work for me. I can't do that.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and I do think the sort of people that write tend to be people that are like big in their commitments and can feel like, if I'm going to join a writing group, I have to be in it forever. But loads of
Hmm.
stuff that I've done, it has really benefited to kind of just be like, I'm just going to jump in and see what happens. You can always jump out again.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do that with Clubhouse, because I have lingered in some rooms, but I usually just do it when I'm at work, so I can't really talk. I can just listen. Um, but I do feel like that's the next great beyond for me, is trying to get into Clubhouse, because it's a live chat. So for me, live chat is the scariest thing. It's just anxiety ridden live chat. But I'm going to get over that, and I'm going to get into Clubhouse.
Yeah, there's a good one at lunchtime every day, like lunchtime UK time. So that one I often listen into when I'm trying to do stuff, because I do a lot of things at lunch, productive wise, because I don't have enough time the rest of my life. So it's good to listen, and often I don't listen into the whole hour. I'll listen to the beginning bit, and then it's like when it's time for me to, often have the sound of something else, I'll just leave. But it's nice to just kind of again be like earwigging in on the water cooler of our industry.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to start this week, she says.
Yeah. I'm going to recommend a thing not to do. I think it doesn't seem very useful. Is there's quite a lot of Reddit groups that are about self-publishing. I would say I've never seen one of them that looks useful. It always looks like people that don't know anything and are just talking very loudly.
Yes. There's definitely, we should do an episode in the future of people and places to avoid in the self-publishing world, because I think that there are a lot of places and people that are going to try and trip you up. So maybe we should put that into a future.
Yeah, and also like maybe bad advice, like some debunk some bad advice. I think that is useful to have a chat about.
Yeah. So I think that basically wraps it up, and hopefully that's been helpful for people. Next week's topic, we're starting a brand new series. If you can believe, we're on to another series now. It is Planning for Success, and with an episode on production plans. Do you have any initial thoughts on this?
I am very excited about the series on planning, because I know it sounds boring, but I think we've got a lot of things at the moment where I have got many tasks that are big and scary, and they all involve kind of long-term thinking. And if I don't long-term think about them, I will get several months down the line and think, why didn't I plan this beforehand? I've left it too late. And I'll be annoyed, and I won't be setting myself up for success. And I really want to, I think I'm at a stage now where all I need is a little bit of a push to get into slightly more long-term thinking, not always be kind of putting out the next fire. And I think part of what's stopping me doing it is it's like a bit of a self-sabotaging thing. It's that if I plan something like long-term and big and significant, I really have to feel worth that. And so if I only let things be like last minute and rushed, and it's like, I'll just hop this together, it's like, I don't have to think about it too much. I have to think about whether I deserve to spend money on myself in this way, or worth this much like positive talk. So it's a real mindset thing for me. I think like not thinking long term. So I really want to get past that and say, I am worth a 6-month like planned out launch plan for my new series. Even if that 6 months isn't like me intensively working on it every day, but I want to have, a slow and steady and well thought out, and, imagine I was going to be really successful and plan towards that plan. So I feel good about it, but also scared.
Same. I'm currently in the production phase of my next book, which is like having loads of balls in the air right now, of having a book with an editor, having a cover designer, doing final tweaks, having a formatter, waiting avidly to get a hand on the book. And it all feels like, I do have a semi-plan for this. It all feels still, though, a bit like I haven't done exactly what I wanted to do. And I think it's just because I haven't really got a grasp. I've got like a little chart, but I don't really have a grasp of that chart. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to making a bigger, wider plan that will help me because I've got so many books planned for the next few years. It's just, I just need to I need to know my production schedule and how everything works. So I'm really looking forward to actually spending some time on that.
I think it's going to be really good, and I think there's no reason not to. We're both looking quite far ahead with our books, so let's get this in place and plan for success. Yes, I'm very excited about it, and I cannot wait to. I'm also scared about it, so that is my feeling. But I cannot wait to have myself like kicked into gear and have to do things by certain week deadlines. It is that sort of series.
Yeah.
And yeah, I will look forward to sharing my ideas with you on production plans, and I will have one in place by next week.
Yes, definitely. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in and listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a review and tell your friends and family, tell your neighbour, tell your pets, tell everyone. We will see you next week.
Bye.
Goodbye.
You've been listening to Pen to Paycheck Authors.
Stay tuned for our next episode, and don't forget to subscribe to learn how to write your way to financial success.